Linda, thanks so much for joining us today. And of course, my first question is as we look at the at wildfire and smoke, what are the major health impacts of wildfire and smoke that we need to be concerned about?
Yeah, so there are a few, and that can depend a little bit on the event, but whether the community is dealing with wildfire itself or whether they're dealing with the smoke from a more distant fire. If the community is dealing with a wildfire itself and needing to prepare for the evacuation, the impacts of evacuation on the community can be quite different than if it is a community that's far from the smoke and they're needing to prepare for the impacts of the smoke, exacerbations of underlying medical conditions or those kinds of things. Both of these situations can have impacts on physical health and also on mental health. Regarding physical health, the wildfires will tend to burn up whatever combustibles are in their path. And those can be natural substances in forests or on the land or that kind of thing. And it can also include man-made substances in our houses, materials from industry or other infrastructure that are in the path of the fire. Closer to the fire in the heat, some materials will actually be vaporized, and you can have people inhaling those vapors. And the particles are also included in some of the smoke too, varying sizes of particles that are generated when the materials burn. Some of those particles are carried hundreds of kilometers in the wind, as we have experienced here even, when fires have been burning in distant parts of the province or even in the US. And those particles that are smaller than the 2.5 microns are called PM 2.5. And both the vapors and those tiny particles can be inhaled. Some of them absorbed into the bloodstream can circulate to various organs in the body. Those can also cause inflammatory reactions, which can affect the organs. Some of those that don't enter the bloodstream, the larger ones, may still cause an inflammatory reaction that can impact organs as well. So when we breathe in the smoke, it commonly infects the lungs, the cardiovascular system, eyes, the airways, such as the nose and throat as well. And we can also see exacerbations of underlying medical conditions that are worsened from the inflammatory reactions. So diabetes can get worse and that kind of thing. And then on the mental health side of things, we also see impacts. We could see increases in depression and anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder in people who are close to the wildfires and needing to be evacuated, but also can see increases in these mental health conditions in people who are just breathing in the smoke in farther away places. Often those people are needing to stay indoors, limiting their physical exercise, those kinds of things, which can impact their mental health as well. And then within these types of impacts, we can see that different portions of the population are impacted differently. Younger and older people, people at the ends of the age spectrums, are disproportionately affected. Women, and especially those who are pregnant, can be. Indigenous and racialized people as well. Those with underlying medical conditions are disproportionately impacted, and people of lower socioeconomic status as well. So, and we also, there's been research that has found that there are greater impacts on people who have closer ties to the land, which is being destroyed and being impacted as well.
So, Linda, I'm glad you mentioned mental health because sometimes that's overlooked as we focus on the physical dangers. And I'm also glad that you made this distinction between natural products that are burning, trees, shrubs, and so forth, and man-made objects like cars and houses and so forth, because I understand from our fire ecologist, Bob Gray, that the more man-made materials, the higher the carcinogenic risk of the smoke. Does that fit with your view from a medical point of view?
Yes, absolutely. For sure, there are damaging particles when wood burns, when other natural substances burn. But I think we enter a whole other category of noxious substances when plastics burn and when other materials like that. You can get the vapors from those, but also the particulate matter as well. And we probably don't know everything that there is to know about how those substances impact us. We're finding them more and more in water systems, in the air, and the soil that are being taken into our bodies. And these are even the non-burned particles as the plastics break down and enter the ecosystem and enter our bodies. And when they're burned, then there's a whole other array of chemical reactions that can take place and substances that are produced that we can be inhaling.
We tend to think of the dangers in terms of what's inhaled, but you've mentioned too, it can be in the soil, it can end up in the water systems and so forth.
Yeah. So this can happen just due to our use and disposal of the variety of substances that we use and materials that we use in day-to-day living. But also when there is a wildfire, the smoke and these particles can be distributed over longer distances. They will end up in the water systems as well and traveling in the air. So people, like I said, at hundreds of kilometers away, breathing in the air of the smoke coming from the wildfires, the runoff from the smoky areas into the water and the confluence of the water systems, bringing them to new communities containing these particles. So this can have impacts in the water and the oil and the soil, sorry, the water and the air, and then also getting into the soil through the water systems, and then potentially into our food systems.
Linda, so what measures can community organizations take to help members of their communities minimize the risks from particularly smoke?
Preparation is the key thing. So getting information out to people in the community is important, helping them to be able to prepare ahead of time. So having warning systems in place to know when the air quality might be changing and becoming worse, and then being able to respond. Having perhaps helping people to get these warning systems, the apps, and that kind of thing to be able to know when poorer air quality may be coming, having communication systems in place for people who don't have those electronic means to be able to warn them to prepare, helping people with medical problems which may be worsened by these events to be able to prepare to manage a worsening of their medical problem, for instance. In Canada, we have air quality monitoring stations which can give real-time information on the air quality, but there are also the organizations that use, the government organizations that use satellite imaging data and weather data to anticipate where smoke will move, which communities will be impacted. And the Air Quality Health Index is available on government websites, both provincial and national, and provides information on the air quality, what it will be anticipated in the next 24 to 48 hours, and what to do at the various levels of air quality, the kinds of measures and things people should be doing. And then the second level of information, so just being aware of what the air quality is or what it will be anticipated to be, and then what to do in those various situations, how to avoid the smoke, to stay indoors, avoiding outdoor physical activity when the air quality is poor, being able to prepare if you may have worsening medical conditions. The communities may be able to identify the people at greater risk within the community, providing them with what they need to not have their health problems exacerbated. So that might mean having things like N95 masks available, having spaces available with clean indoor air, or helping people to prepare to have a clean indoor air within their homes, or a designated area with the home that has air filters or those kinds of things, or areas within the community where people can come to seek that clean air. And for the communities that may need to evacuate, their community organizers can prepare ahead of time for evacuation in case that need arises, giving attention to the people who have the greatest needs and for whom displacement really can have a big impact. And in general, that has been found to be women and non-binary people, Indigenous people, being aware of trying to keep families together if they need to be displaced, to be able to care for family members, being prepared to assist those with less financial means as well, helping people to be informed so that they can prepare to evacuate safely and with less impact if that need arises, helping people prepare to evacuate well ahead of time, because this can sometimes be a very urgent thing, so that they have the things that they need to manage any underlying medical conditions, or the people around them who may be able to help them in case of evacuation as well.
So, first and foremost, the community needs to be informed about the nature of air quality, where to find information reliably for their community, and how to react when air quality decreases, whether that's staying inside or using masks, or in extreme cases, seeking medical attention. And then the next thing is that there are populations that community organizations may be able to identify who are more vulnerable when air quality decreases. And so to have thought that through beforehand and be in connection with those people, the vulnerable populations, that's also important. And it's not just individuals that are impacted in terms of healthcare, but it's also the healthcare systems themselves, clinics, hospitals, and so forth. I'm picturing once again the importance of communicating, providing the community with information about air quality, evacuation, and so forth, so that people in the community know where to access information and know what initial steps to take, whether it's evacuation or staying indoors or whatever.
Some of the helpful websites, the Health Canada, looking up in the Health Canada website and looking for wildfire and wildfire smoke preparation. There's some good information there. BC CDC has also some really helpful information that is also being updated. Even older information can be really helpful in preparation. And there has been some research that's shown that less technical information is actually taken up better. So telling people to stay indoors, for instance, when the air quality is poor, is more helpful. Staying indoors, reducing physical activity outdoors is more helpful information than saying get a HEPA air filter or those kinds of things. So sometimes the basic information, which can be really helpful, is what may have the most impact as well. And then providing the people or finding the ways to help people have available the things that can make a difference, like having an N95 mask. That may be really helpful in some situations for people who have underlying health conditions, who may not have access to the cleanest air and that kind of thing.
It might be helpful from the point of view of community organizations to stock up on N95 masks so that you can distribute them to vulnerable populations.
Yeah. So, and that may vary from the needs may be different in rural communities than in urban communities and those kinds of things. So looking at the risk where the wildfire may impact communities that may need to evacuate versus the ones that are just dealing more with the smoke. Needs may be different in those situations. And also having the community, so engaging with the community, finding out who the people are that are at risk and finding out what they need. In some situations, this is also going back to the communities who have lived through these and finding out what were the impacts, what were the struggles, what can we learn? Who are the people that were the most impacted? And often these are the more vulnerable, the younger people, and how to help them prepare.
Linda, are there any questions I haven't asked or information that you would like to share that we haven't talked about thus far?
I think we've covered most of the important things. I think the key point is preparedness. Looking at these information sites, and like I said, there is some good information on the BC CDC for more local things, but also Health Canada to look at where to get information on air quality forecasts and what's happening in real time within the communities, and then also how to be prepared and how to help communities become prepared.
And so there are sources of valuable information.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks so much for doing this.